Snake, have you ever been in love?
I hope no one else is doing a bit, but I'm doing a bit.
Daddy's got a pod.
I'm Casey Kasem, and this one's for the perverts.
Join us in our strange ritual.
That is time-traveling love smut.
I can only say horny in one season opener.
A medium amount of fun and an extra large amount of sweaty.
From the minds that brought you Giraffe and Amerisaur.
No regrets, no masters.
I got dick jokes to make, man. Leave me alone.
This is good. This is good for anyone.
This one's going to be weird. I'm very interested to see where this goes.
Hello, welcome to Debate This, the show where no one is right, but someone is definitely wrong. In this show, we take time out of our busy adult lives to talk about comic books, video games, and legally distinct clones of the most profitable video game series of all time, making a genuinely better version of the game in a single go than that franchise has been doing for the last 30 years.
How is Pal World?
It's really good.
Is it genuinely better?
It is what if Legends Arceus wasn't super fucking buggy.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
the pitch.
Yeah.
But also had like a fully realized like Ark survival mode mechanic or Fortnite
Yeah.
survival mechanic. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's really fun.
Good.
I've wondered why we haven't played, like haven't
We,
played
us.
Ark or something like that. Feels like that's something that we should do.
It's one of those games that I've always wanted to get into, but been like every other game is doing that. So
Well, we'd all have to pick one. We'd have to pick one of them.
you have to pick one. Matt, do that. You can do that research. You find us a game.
What? Me? I found a game. It's Overwatch 2. You guys can play? I'll load up right now. We can record.
I don't want. I don't.
Okay. All right.
Unsubscribe.
Anyway, go play Power World. It's really fun. It's on Game Pass. Anyway, starting this month and throughout the winter and spring, the rest of the winter and the spring, we're going to be embarking on a series of dealer's choice, if you will, flavor texts. Thanks to an anonymous listener who commissioned a block of episodes, and I just gave them a kind of a list of topics, ones that we've been kind of talking about for a while, and they just went boom, boom, boom. So thanks everybody. Hey, everybody needs an enigmatic patron in the background.
Yeah.
So, an
Yeah.
Mysterious benefactor.
Mysterious benefactor. So thank you, mysterious benefactor. We appreciate it. So today we're going to kick off this series of dealer's choices with one of my personal favorites, and a game franchise that makes the plot of Kingdom Hearts look like the plot of Mario.
I don't like that. I don't like that
no,
sentence at all.
I don't want that.
We're talking about Metal Gear Solid today, and it's going to get goofy, and I'm very excited about it. But before we get into it, as always, just a quick reminder, if you out there listening would like to commission your own flavor text, all you need to do is visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/debatethiscast. One-time payment of $60 will earn you a spot on the list for an entire month. Month. This is your month.
We are always accepting new mysterious benefactors.
Yeah.
Yes. Sugar daddies, as some would say.
Absolutely.
Some would say that.
And I mean, let's be clear. You're a benefactor. You don't have to be mysterious. Mysterious levels negligible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can be whimsical.
It could be whimsical.
a
could
whimsical
be
benefactor.
aggressive. Whatever you want.
I mean, you could be. We can't
could be.
stop you.
That's true. Well, with that said, patched in on my codec, stimulating the small bones of my ears, are the rest of my team. Todd, you're that ninja. Thomas, Matt, it's easy to forget what a sin it is in the middle of the battlefield. Cole, and Kyle, yeah, you've got a great butt. Harper.
Again, Kyle's nickname in college. This is just constantly.
Yeah, it's true.
Eerie, even.
One more just to get a clean take. Metal Gear. All right. So, that's my David hater. Guys, what do you know about Metal Gear Solid? Is it nothing?
I easy. I will keep this brief. There are a shit ton of these games.
There are a few.
The bosses are both famous and unknown because everyone knows Psycho Mantis.
Everyone knows Psycho Man is correct.
Yep.
And I think a shared experience.
Name two bosses from Metal Gear Solid.
Another one that is probably named Snake, a clone of Snake.
Ocelot.
actually right.
Revolver Ocelot. I think those are two
Revolver
different
Ocelot.
ones.
Those are good answers.
The Spirit Ravens, man. And then the other thing is that I think it's a shared experience that in the days of demo discs, everyone played that one level of the first Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation.
Yeah. Everyone, if you had a PlayStation, you had this demo disc, guaranteed.
You snapped a neck at some point.
Yep.
And you smoked a cigarette and saw your health go down just a little bit. And you're like, oh, look what that did.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Fourth wall breaking. Matt and Kyle?
Yeah, pretty much the same as Todd, honestly, except I didn't play the demo disc for PlayStation because I was a Nintendo kid.
You were a babby.
Yeah. I know about as much of Metal Gear Solid as we have talked about on this podcast. And then
Got it.
maybe the tiniest bit more from what I've gleaned from Super Smash Brothers trophy description text.
Sure.
That's all I have.
Noted.
Yeah, I know it's got I think it's Psycho Mantis, the boss where you have to change controller ports to fight him.
Yep.
It's incredibly meta and insane, and also, like, isn't it an allegory for capitalism and
Anti-capitalism.
yeah, it's an anti-capitalism allegory, and it's probably the truest work of art as a video game, I think, too. So that's what I know.
Everything that y'all just said,
That-
100% true.
That, and that the spirit of the Baltimore Ravens is to win.
I also
Except
know that. Yeah.
last night.
Oh,
You're not going to the Super Bowl.
As of this recording, the Spirit Ravens unfortunately leapt from their forehead and paralyzed them, as Spirit Ravens are wont to do.
This is obviously, this is just, if you've been a listener for years, that was a joke forever ago of there's a bad guy who uses Spirit Ravens and a Baltimore Ravens joke. Just for us here, Baltimore Ravens quarterback won me my fantasy football league this year. So, like,
No one
Lamar
cares.
Jackson, you did it.
You don't get
we're-
to bring that up if I don't get to make the joke about people shoveling Buffalo's stadium.
There are not a lot of moratoriums on this podcast, but Todd's fantasy league is one of them.
We don't have to talk about it for another 7 months. It's fine.
Great. That's a different podcast. All right, let's jump in. I always like to start these with talking about a little bit about the people behind the works. And you cannot talk about Metal Gear Solid without talking about notorious artiste Hideo Kojima. Hideo Kojima is the granddaddy of Metal Gear. He made them all. He directed them all. This is his swan song as an artist, as an author, as a writer. It is not exclusively, but the majority of the work that he's produced in his career has been for the Metal Gear Solid series. Hideo Kojima was born in August 1963 in Tokyo. He was the youngest of 3 children and then grew up in Osaka. His family moved there when he was 4 until about teen years. In his teen years, Kojima quickly developed an interest in movies and filmmaking. That should surprise no one who's ever played one of his games.
Right.
And Kojima, he was kind of thrust onto him when a friend brought a Super 8 camera, that's the like little windy cameras, to school one day, and from there on he pursued this passion in filmmaking and said, I want to be in the movie industry. Now, following graduation, Kojima famously pursued basically saying, like, well, I don't know anybody in film, so what about video games? And basically he looked at so this was about the mid 80s. He looked at Nintendo's Famicom, which, if you know your timeline, this is about the time little after Mario Bros had come out. He looked at the Famicom and said, like, oh, this could be a new, like, interactive medium, a way to tell stories. And he got a job at Konami. He got a job at Konami in their MSX home computer division. So when we talked about Bomberman, we talked a lot about, like, Japanese home computers, but again, these were like a lot of the Japanese exclusive games that you hear in the 80s were on these, like, disparate personal computers.
Right.
So he actually was working on for that, and his first project that he was assigned was a game called Penguin Adventure. Apparently, it was fine.
It sounds adorable.
Precursor precursor to Club Penguin. It would later be
Precursor to
adapted
Club- Yeah,
to Club
the
Penguin
sequel.
years later. Yeah,
Exactly. Well said. So, and really immediately after that, he was put on Metal Gear. It was this new project, and Metal Gear really, I mean, Kojima pretty much built it from the ground up. There's a really fun note here, kind of again another like did you know kind of note, trivia factoid that
A pop-up video.
a pop-up video.
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
Kojima wanted to work on the Famicom, and he was kind of bummed about working on the MSX2 at the time, and he felt like it was not as good as the Famicom. So he kind of famously, like, as soon as he leapt in the driver's seat in Metal Gear, he changed the gameplay to focus on stealth because he didn't feel like having an action like the hardware could handle like an action adventure focused game. So it was more around like sneaking and stealthing and walking behind things, which also allowed them to free up the memory to talk more about story. And it's interesting because he kind of like inadvertently like created an entire genre because of hardware limitations, which is neat.
Real quick, I just want to pause right there. What genre do you call Metal Gear Solid? Maddie asked me this before we recorded, and I honestly had kind of a hard time giving an answer.
Yeah, it's third-person stealth.
Cool.
I mean, Metal Gear and Metal Gear Solid by extension 100% invented the stealth genre. So, you know, games like Splinter Cell, games like Dishonored, Hitman, right? All of those games
Luigi's
have...
Mansion.
Luigi's Mansion.
All of those games, specifically Luigi's Mansion, have Metal Gear to think. Yeah.
Cool.
Good question. So
The increasingly
domino
larger
meme.
meme.
Yeah.
But the last domino is Guigi.
The last domino is Guichi.
Yeah. Now, remember at the time, this is the mid-'80s, like the biggest game Contra had at the time, or biggest game Konami had at the time was Contra, right? Which is just run and gun, shoot aliens. So Metal Gear was intended to be kind of, not a follow-up, but, you know, in the style of, remember too at the time that movies like Escape from New York were really popular, Blade Runner, Kojima was very, very inspired by blockbuster movies at the time, right? And so this led us to the creation of Metal Gear. And then, like I said, Metal Gear was pretty successful. It was in its release in Japan. Again, it was like no one had really seen anything like it. The way that Metal Gear is played, it's top down. It kind of looks like the old Legend of Zelda games, but again, you're just kind of walking around people. You can fire your little gun. You got weapons and stuff, but it's all about infiltration, right? An NES port of Metal Gear was released to the States several months later. Now, that game was also very successful because I should note that Metal Gear takes place in the US, right? So Metal Gear is Kojima's take is an anime spy thriller. And that is the theme that carries throughout. No matter how weird and fucky this franchise gets, it always comes back to its roots as a like Mission Impossible style spy thriller. And everything predominantly takes place in the US. All the main characters are in the US, and it is focused on US politics. It's a lot of like US versus Russia. It's a lot of like Cold War kind of stuff. So that was now granted, like the original Metal Gear doesn't have like that big a story. We'll get into it. Its successor though, Metal Gear 2 does. But let me quickly just cover off. So Metal Gear was also very successful in the West, obviously being a United States themed game. However, the NES port was not as good, considered to be not as good as the MSX2 version. Kojima famously, panned it for altered graphics. They changed the ending, all of the NES shit that they did at the time, which we've talked about extensively. So this is funny, but Konami, following the success of Metal Gear, Konami actually decided to do what Konami does best and go out on their own. They released a US and PAL Europe exclusive sequel to Metal Gear called Snake's Revenge that did not involve Kojima. They were just like, yeah, we're going to do this. And it did not release in Japan. So upon first hearing about it, Kojima was like, fuck it, I'll make my own sequel with blackjack and hookers.
And with blackjack and hookers, yeah.
Hell yeah.
So at the same year that Snake's Revenge came out, Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake came out in Japan. the canon sequel. So after Metal Gear 2, and both were, liked pretty well. And you can play all 3 of these on emulators and some.
I was
collections
wondering
today.
how Snake's Revenge was received.
Fine, it's very silly and fine.
Sure.
So the next couple of years, Kojima really spent the SNES Genesis years on a different franchise called Police Knots, which was released in '94. After that, once games started going to 3D, he went back to Metal Gear for a 3D sequel. Now, Metal Gear Solid was actually originally being developed for the 3DO. If anybody remembers or knows the 3DO, that system did not last very long.
No.
What is
it
the
didn't.
3DO?
It was kind of like a Lynx, like a Jaguar. It was very much meant to be like an arcade type console.
Gotcha.
So after the 3DO was continued, he and Konami as the publisher shifted all development toward the PlayStation 1. Metal Gear Solid released in September of 1998, considered to be one of the greatest years for video games, one of the greatest video games ever released to this day. Metal Gear Solid has inspired so many things. Metal Gear Solid is considered to be, really, like, this is not hyperbole. Like, it is objectively one of the more important games in the history of gaming. It was really the first to incorporate cinematography in a way that it's pretty common with games today. It was one of the first to incorporate like really thought out voice acting that wasn't just like somebody's nephew doing, Bubsy lines, right? Like it is movie quality production from start to finish.
Awesome.
So yeah, and of course everybody fucking loved it because it was on that goddamn demo disc.
It was like whatever
good demo disc.
whatever that demo disc was everywhere.
Does anybody remember like what did that demo disc come with?
Yeah, because I
didn't have a PlayStation. I knew about it because my friends had it, but I also didn't have a PlayStation.
I'm not sure I played this demo disc because I didn't have it or because I fired up Metal Gear Solid and said, that's a lot of words, and loaded up something else instead.
Both of those things sound on brand.
Yeah.
Without going to check the exact date, I just so vaguely, or I guess specifically remember this being in the era of like NFL Blitz. Like probably Tomb Raider came a bit before it. I remember Gex, played a lot of Gex. And I feel like this all fell within that time of like PlayStation Magazine was doing demo discs.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know that I had it. I'll look. I'll do a little digging. I'll see what.
If you need a kind of like a point in time, this is 2 months before Ocarina of Time came out.
Gotcha.
If you need an anchor point.
I just might not have had a PlayStation yet. Maybe that's it. I don't know when I got the PlayStation. Oh, we can move on.
I did look for what else was on this demo disc, and I couldn't find anything. So I don't think it was like one of the like jam packs. I think it was probably like it came with a Sony magazine, and it just again like kind of like the Donkey Kong VHS. Like everybody just had it, and I don't know how. Nobody knows how.
Yeah.
You're just born with it in your possession, actually.
Yeah, it just materializes one day. So 3 years later, following MGS1, Kojima developed Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty, that would be a direct sequel that came out for the then new PS2, which I did have this one when it came out. And I played this one first, and holy shit, what a bonkers experience that was. So while working on the third entry of the MGS franchise, Kojima also worked on a new IP for the GBA called Boktai, The Sun Is In Your Hand. And I feel like if anybody played that, it may have been Kyle. Did you ever play that one?
I did not play it. I did know about this. This was the Game Boy Color game that used the sun to power your weapon in game.
I remember that.
And you could hack it by like holding your Game Boy up to any light source.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. And, something that came up and was never used again.
Yeah.
Right.
Very cool idea.
Yeah.
Very funny that it's so easy to like hack it
to game it.
But good on them for like putting anything interesting into that cartridge because
a real Death
cool.
Stranding of its time, if you will.
Yes.
So after Metal Gear Solid 2 came out, a definitive edition came out called Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance. That came out 1 year later, which featured additional like VR missions, which are again just like 2002 version of DLC, and other added content. Not the least which is a whole ass skateboarding minigame. And I would like for you guys just to click this link that I put in the notes here. And I'll put it in the show notes. We can hack in a little dead air, but listeners at home, if you are by a computer, you just need to watch this 2-minute clip of Solid Snake fucking skateboarding down Big Shell. It's really good.
Wow.
Yeah.
The biggest problem, it's not playing Superman by Goldfinger.
Well,
Or-
yeah, they could get the licenses.
or the Sonic Adventure 2 song.
Yeah.
Either would have worked. Yeah.
The font is
This
so
is-
ridiculous.
It's radical, Matt.
It's radical. I think this is a really good example of how, and again, Kojima is insane, clinically insane, but he is also a genius, and both of those things can be objective fact.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
And one thing that I think I and a lot of people, if you enjoy about Kojima, is he is not afraid to get goofy, right? And he's really
Yes.
good. He's really good at maximizing serious stuff and maximizing the silliness. And both of those things can live in tandem. And that's not, I would argue games aren't normally really good at that.
Yes.
you know?
I
So, yeah.
can't think of many other games that I feel like do a really good job of balancing that. Weirdly, the only one that I can think of, and this is a deep pull that I'm sure is just for me, but growing up in the woods, I played a lot of the Cabela Dangerous Hunts series. Very good at balancing serious
Sure.
and funny. But that's, that one's for daddy.
All right. Cool. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater released in 2004, and that would serve as a prequel to the entire series. It shifted focus on the series' original antagonist, Big Boss, and then kind of completed the MGS trilogy, or so we thought. So that game's definitive edition was called Subsistence.
Good.
Oh, no.
No.
We're into some real shit.
Yep. So we've got Kingdom Hearts naming mechanics now. So Subsistence came out a year later and included like extra cutscenes, other DLC type content, and a rework of the Ape Escape tie-in minigame Snake vs. Monkey, which is the first image on our Imager folder.
What a
And
first image
it's-
in our
Yeah,
Imager
just
folder.
it's coming in
It's a
hot.
good lead-in, I thought. Snake versus
What's
Monkey.
happening here?
No,
Yeah.
and so listeners, before we started recording, I opened up the Imager and audibly said, "Man, I love this game. Let me be specific. I'm talking about Ape Escape.
Ape Escape, yeah.
I played the shit out of this game, and I don't know what's going on here."
It's wild. So Metal Gear Solid 3, my favorite one. I think that game is a fucking masterpiece, a brilliant masterpiece. It takes place in a jungle. You're in the jungles. I think you're in Africa at one point. You're in Russia at one point. But it's all about being outside, and there's a lot of like deep, like you're wearing different types of camo. It's in the 60s. It's very like James Bond themed, but you're like in like deep jungles basically. And they had a little mini game on the original disc where you could go stealth around and try to find the very cutesy Ape Escape monkeys in your like very real human ass like
That's so
Solid
good.
Snake garb. Yeah,
I-
I think another example is Matt mentioned Snake being in Brawl. Like Kojima, the reason that Solid Snake was in Brawl is Kojima wanted Solid Snake to be in Melee, and they were and Sakurai was like, absolutely not.
I was a little worried when you talked about when we like moved on from the skateboarding clip, and I like didn't get to bring this point up.
Oh,
I
please.
should have known. I would have gotten another opportunity to bring it up. I think what like makes Kojima so brilliant. And I'm speaking from not much experience here and only through hearsay, is that he understands that they are games, and like
Yeah.
as artistic and like a meaningful message he may want to include in them, he also recognizes that sometimes you want to fire up a game and just like dick around for a little bit and then go about your life. And like we got that in the last 2 games you talked about, like a little snake versus monkey mini game, snake skateboarding, snake in Brawl. Like,
could be fun.
This is not a silly character, but here he is doing silly stuff, and like he was just ahead of the curve on recognizing that's what people want.
Yeah, 100%. I will say, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say Kojima is flawless, perfect, man. I mean, his games are also very horny. I mean, most of these games are also written with his own genitalia. Like, there's no question there. I mean, MGS5 has a character who walks around in a bikini because her skin is, quote, photosynthesis, and she can't wear clothes because it suffocates her.
Blah.
Wow. That's some 7th grade ass bullshit. That's
that
crazy.
Was 2016 2016.
And I think he's even like come out since then, and like he's been confronted about it. Is like, why would you do that to justify this? And he's like, I just wanted a character in a bikini the whole game.
Yeah,
like,
right.
He's unapologetic for being horny on main. He knew what he was doing.
And like, fair enough.
Game recognizes game.
Right.
So that's the first 3. Following 3, a spin-off was released for the then new PSP in 2004, which used let's say it together, a card-based turn-based battle system.
God, I wasn't ready for that.
There's a Metal Gear Solid card battler.
Yeah, dude, there are 2.
Oh my god!
So digging out my modded PSP.
Is that one more than Mega Man has?
No, Mega Man has.
Are you counting Battle Network? I guess Battle Network is a card.
Battle Network is it. There are 6 Battle Networks. And
oh my god!
And after 3, they do 2 versions on each one.
Never mind. I asked.
The only publisher at this time more willing to take a leap than Konami was Capcom.
Yeah.
So Metal Gear Acid, the I is an exclamation point. Metal Gear Acid released in 2004, and then its sequel came out in 2006. So Kojima's final swan song of the series came out in 2008 in the form of Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots. And this was supposed to be the end of Solid Snake's story. It was tying everything up. It was the grand finale. Until Kojima announced 5 years later that he would actually be working on Metal Gear Solid 5. But even before Metal Gear Solid 5, Kojima went back to the Big Bossiverse, the Big Bass universe, because the way it goes is...
Was that the Big Bossiverse or the Big Bass universe? Because I heard you say both.
Yeah, I heard Big Bass, as in the Big Mouth Billy Bass.
The Big Bass Billy Bass verse is different than the Big Bossiverse.
Big Bass is one of the mini games. So Metal Gear Solid 3, like I said, is kind of the prequel, and that kicks off this kind of other era, this other timeline with Big Boss. So 1, 2, and 4 follow one timeline, and then 3 and 5 follow take place before, essentially. So after 3, we got Metal Gear Peace Walker, which was another game on the PSP. And then Konami worked with Platinum Games, who made the Bayonetta series and Nier Automata, to make Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance in 2013.
What an incredible name! With all the same gusto as Thor and Ragnarok, we're the Revengers. It's incredible.
All the names have been incredible.
They're all good.
Yeah.
They're all objectively good. So while Revengeance was happening, Kojima was actually working on a side project of his own that was rumored to be a revival of the Silent Hill franchise. Can you guys believe that PT came out 10 years ago?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, I just saw my age in the mirror. That hurts.
PT, the free demo that everybody flipped shit about, it was really good. Everybody flipped shit about was a demo teaser for a game called Silent Hills, which never came out, was intended to be a revival of Silent Hill directed by Kojima. And PT was kind of the beginning of the end of Kojima's relationship with Konami. At that point, there were already like tons of. It was pretty well known that like he was already on the outs with them. So this was all happening. In 2013, we got an announcement for Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Metal Gear Solid 5 would be the final, we promise, final entry in Metal Gear Solid.
Double cross pinky swear final.
Yep. MGS5 was also would be one of the first. This would be one of the first entries for PS4. So Konami actually released a $20 prologue for MGS5 called Ground Zeroes, and Ground Zeroes was basically like a demo plus of Metal Gear Solid 5, and it was like very early in the PS4's life cycle. That would basically like serve as a preview to the game's new open world mechanics, which like MGS5 is not the best game, but the best to play. It is just a very fun game to play. But Ground Zeroes kind of showcases its features, and you know, in the background, between the botched Silent Hill revival, the financial strain with MGS5's development was just pissing millions of dollars. At one point, they got Kiefer Sutherland to do the voice acting slot for Snake. They replaced him with the guy
ahead of his time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that was like a whole thing. And MGS5 like is it kind of like Final Fantasy 15. It's like famously unfinished. There's a ton more content that Kojima planned and just had to like scrap. It's like it is telling 4 stories in one. It's very all over the place. It's a good game, but it is very all over the place.
It's like the Justice League.
Yeah, it has it has honestly it has a lot of Snyder cut energy for sure. That's a good connection. So Konami had announced that Kojima had taken a hiatus in late 2015. Which conflicting reports that he had already left months before that. By the end of 2015, MGS5 was nominated for Game of the Year, among other things, at the Game Awards. Kojima didn't even go to the Game Awards. Kiefer Sutherland actually accepted the award on the Kojima's team's behalf.
Good.
Which is pretty funny. So after that, Kojima left. So Metal Gear Solid 5 comes out. Kojima's out. Konami's like, fuck that guy. He's done. Kojima leaves Metal Gear Solid with Konami, right? So Konami still owns Metal Gear Solid. Kojima went to create Kojima Productions as an independent studio. In 2019, he released everyone's favorite delivery simulator, Death Stranding.
There it is.
Yep. Kojima gifted us the likes of Psychic Fetuses, Time Rain, and a man named Die Hardman. Wow.
I didn't know
Is that
about
really
Die
his
Hardman.
name?
Die Hardman, my dudes.
Die Hardman's so good.
It's
That's Simpsons level antics.
Yeah.
It really is.
There is no reason that man got away with Death Stranding, but again, it's a really fucking good game. I hate how good it is. So while this was happening in parallel, Konami kept the lifeless corpse of Metal Gear alive with a very underwhelming zombie survival game named Metal Gear Survive in 2018, if you guys
Really?
remember that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because it sucked.
It's playing off Call of Duty zombies.
100% it is. And that's what everyone was like, and was like, cool,
Metal-
great, Konami, we'll see you later.
Metal Gear's about war. Another war game with zombies in it's doing really well.
Yeah. It was
Just-
created in a lab by studio execs.
Had it
sure
been a year or
was.
two later, it would have been a battle royale. So let's
Yep.
just be happy we got what we got.
Yep. So where is Metal Gear today? Well, there have been any new titles of any new Metal Gear titles, but Konami has been shitting out remakes, remasters after remasters. They've released a few HD ports of the older games. There was a couple like Xbox 360 HD collections that came out, so they've been re-releasing that. Most recently, we got Metal Gear Solid: The Master Collection Volume 1 that was released in October, where it is a single disc anthology of Metal Gear, Snake's Revenge, Metal Gear 2, and then Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3. And you also get all the PS1 VR missions, which is like a separate disc. And that is all available on Steam, on Switch even. So it's a really, like, anyone who hasn't played these games, that's a great lead-in to play them. The ports are fine. You know, they're not anything to write home about, but they're playable. So if you've never played Metal Gear Solid before, there's your shot. And we all kind of anticipate there being a volume 2, which will be the PSP games, probably MGS4, which is still locked on the PS3. One of the few games that is locked forever on the PS3.
Oh,
Yeah.
bummer.
Yeah. Because if you don't have a PS3, you've never played, like I've never played MGS4 because I never had a PS3.
They're gonna wait till the next Switch comes out when it has PS4 graphics. That'll be
maybe.
That's the
Good.
determining.
That was
factor.
really
Get
good,
'em,
Kyle.
That was really good. That was really good.
This anthology does not have Metal Gear Solid Acid for anyone who was curious like me, because I
You
already
gotta
went
wait
looking.
for volume 2.
I already went looking for how can I play Metal Gear Solid Acid.
Yeah.
And the answer is I gotta find a PSP. So
Yeah. You could go play Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories.
Or you could just not fucking do that ever
Yeah, right.
for any reason.
And then finally, a full remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 was announced earlier this year that they're calling Metal Gear Solid Delta: Snake Eater. That's supposed to come out later this year. And that's it. That's as far as Metal Gear is. Kojima, on the other hand, released a trailer for his next insane creative asset called OD, which is a horror game, and that's all we know. And the trailer is absolutely insane. You will break your brain by watching that trailer.
good.
So, yeah. Cool.
Well, I need to
So
go
that's Metal
watch
Gear.
the OD trailer.
I think you need to go watch the OD trailer.
I've never heard of this.
It was just announced at Game Awards like last month. So it's
okay.
really new. Yeah. Okay. So I want to set up some of the context for Metal Gear Solid. So we're going to talk very, very briefly about Metal Gear 1 and 2. Again, these are NES games. They don't have a ton of story, famously, but there's a couple of fun images and things and kind of notes that will come up. In the year 19XX.
Yeah.
This was later retconned to 1995.
No.
Less extreme, but more accurate.
Don't
Yeah,
put
yeah.
a real year.
Yeah.
Yeah, later retconned. So a weapon of mass destruction is reported to be held in a fortified, independent, militarized state called Outer Heaven, which is located about 200 miles north of South Africa. Again, may I remind you, spy thriller. Put your brain in that box. U.S. Military Special Forces Unit Foxhound sends one of their top agents, Gray Fox, to investigate, and now he's missing. The final transmission being only the words, Metal Gear. That's the pitch.
That rules. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does rule. I did not know where the name Metal Gear came from, and I'm glad we answered that question early.
It
I
is.
figured we'd get there. I was
Yeah.
waiting for the slow burn.
We're
I
going to
was
say Metal
expecting it
Gear
to
a
be-
lot.
I was expecting it to be like the 5th or 6th game, and Andrew to be like, and that's the Metal Gear!
No, Metal Gear has a prominent role in every single one of these entries.
Great.
So Foxhound's commanding officer, Big Boss, I've said that name before. Big Boss sends in their newest recruit, rookie Solid Snake, to infiltrate the base and find out what happened to Gray Fox. So image 2 is a very classic translation image, one of those very classic old timey translations. It is a man yelling, "I feel asleep."
Man,
What he's
same.
yeah, right. Well, what he's supposed to have been saying was, "I fell asleep,"
Sure.
because he's sleeping and then wakes up and shoots Snake. But instead, he's exclaiming how he feels,
I
which is
feel
very
asleep.
fun. Yeah. So Snake infiltrates the base, eventually locates Gray Fox. Gray Fox explains that Metal Gear is a walking bipedal tank equipped with enough nuclear missiles to establish Outer Heaven as a military superpower. So that's it.
Fuck yeah, dude, I'm in.
Metal Gear and unchanged, right? Every time Metal Gear is a walking ATST from Star Wars that has nukes.
Is the threat just one, that there is one of these Metal Gears
For now, yes.
for now, but like at this time, it's they have one
Yeah.
big tank.
With nuclear weapons, to be fair.
Well,
sure,
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
but
Yes.
the scaling is silly. That's all.
It's got to be because it's got to be enough to be a threat, but it also has to be like not crazy enough that it can't be the final boss.
Then that it's it's a secret. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get
Well,
it.
yeah, okay, hold
Right.
on. Let me go on one quick diatribe about spy thrillers and shit, because like that's
Yeah.
the thing that makes James Bond and like a lot of spy things work, right? Is that it has to be this massive threat that can also be a complete secret to everybody around, and no one knows it's going on.
Right.
Like, the only people who know that it's happening are the people doing it and the people trying to stop it. And if it's any bigger than that, it's not really a spy thing.
Yeah. So at this point, Metal Gear is more action adventure. That's like, it's like Commando, like go into the enemy base and destroy the nukes, right? In the next game, we're going to get a lot more of that, what Matt just outlined. But I think that's a really good kind of like setting the scene here. So throughout the way, Snake keeps like he's infiltrating, right? He's sneaking around, but he keeps falling into these like very specific traps after like while Big Boss is like talking to him on the receiver. Because that's the thing, right? This game is like you're always getting like stuff on the incoming transmissions.
Yeah.
But Big Boss is getting like weirder and weirder as Snake gets deeper into the compound. And it's eventually revealed that at the end of the game, this mysterious, enigmatic, world-famous soldier that's leading this rogue military unit is none other than Big Boss the whole time.
Whoa!
Yeah,
Oh, man.
Yeah. So this gets into the spy thriller shit. So Big Boss was like, I was going to use you, Snake, to feed misinformation to the authorities and then let you get killed by mistake on sight. So
Wow.
Snake, yeah,
Okay.
great. Good plan. So Snake confronts his commanding officer in the heart of Outer Heaven as Big Boss initiates the self-destruct sequence. For sure. The two square off, as of course they do.
It's the first one. They get to use all the tropes. That's
All the tropes,
Yeah,
baby.
that's right.
There's one trope we haven't done yet, which I'm very excited to go through. Snake squares off against Big Boss in the final battle. He escapes victorious, leaving Big Boss to die in the explosive wreckage. That is until he receives a transmission for Big Boss saying, I'll see you again. To be continued. So Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake begins to flesh out the alternative history of Metal Gear. Metal Gear is realistic fiction, essentially.
Gotcha.
Until it
Sure,
isn't, until it
yeah.
gets very silly. So in this universe, the Cold War continued through the 1990s and is basically still kind of happening. Like, it never really ended. It just kind of like fizzled out. And
Was JFK assassinated in this universe?
you know,
Big
he
question.
was because. So I think he was because Lyndon Johnson actually appears in Metal Gear Solid 3.
That's incredible.
And
Magneto
if-
confirmed canon.
Good.
If you want, okay, I have this later. We're gonna talk about this. We might talk about this later. But my my Domino's meme of the Metal Gear Solid franchise is Lyndon Johnson is the reason the entire series happens.
Good.
Yeah, we probably won't get there today, but that's fine. So, okay, so Solid Snake, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. So in this world, Cold War is happening. Also in 1999, the world was met with a global fuel crisis. So now we're in 1999, 5 years after the Outer Heaven incident. So this, or 4 years, sorry. So this is where the sequel begins in 1999. Solid Snake, now retired from all 4 of his years at Foxhound.
Got a full pension after that.
Yeah.
Did his one tour and he's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Solid Snake is pulled back for one last mission. Mission. Yeah. So this mission is to Zanzibar land, which is a completely fictional country. But
Sure
this this country in this universe has just recently won independence from the Soviet Union. Also in this alternate reality, this global fuel crisis is solved when a Russian chemist discovers a way of synthesizing oil through a new species of algae. So also like this begins, the technology starts to hockey stick curve up and like greatly surpasses. So this world quickly turns into like a futuristic dystopia, essentially.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Which is like objectively cool, right?
Yeah.
Like very cool.
Yeah.
So the leaders of Zanzibar land find this out and capture this chemist in order to kind of take control of the world's oil reserves. A very James Bond-ass plot.
Yep.
So Solid Snake is called in by the new Foxhound CO, Colonel Roy Campbell. And Roy Campbell ends up being kind of the Zordon of this universe, if you will.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought of Zordon, but there we are.
We're
So-
here now.
With
good. I like
the
it.
help with the help of his mentor and his like survival trainer drill instructor McDonald Miller, or he calls Master Miller, Snake infiltrates the base at Zanzibar land and learns 2 things. One, beans, they've gone and made another dang Metal Gear.
Oh no.
And two, not only is Big Boss alive, but he is the one pulling the strings behind this new militarized faction at Zanzibar Land.
Of course he is.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he be?
I love the idea that all villain plots in this universe, much like the crab, evolve into a Metal Gear.
Yep.
And
It's this might be too early to say this. This is just different Halo. Oh dang!
It might be different Halo.
Another universe-ending weapon that's a Halo. Oh, more of them.
It honestly,
Todd.
it might be a different Halo. That
Halo
is one of
just
the more
another Metal Gear.
yeah.
One
that's
came
the
before
real
the other.
situation.
That's true.
You're
that's
right.
true.
You're right.
This is anime Halo, or Halo's Western Metal Gear. Anyway, so while sneaking his way through the base, Snake is stopped by the aforementioned Metal Gear D, being piloted by Gray Fox, who we heard about in the last game, his former colleague and friend. Now they're at odds because Gray Fox has basically revealed that he's been loyal to Big Boss the whole time. So Snake fights Gray Fox and defeats him and watches his former friend die at his hand. And then he leaves to go confront Big Boss once and for all. So at the end of
for all.
Once and for all.
And we never see Gray Fox again.
Correct. So Solid Snake catches up with his former commanding officer, and the two share one final dialogue about the futility of war. You know how you do.
Yep.
And then Snake sets his body on fire with an improvised flamethrower.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's how Solid Snake ends. So I've got two images here that I think are really fun. So remember how I mentioned so Metal Gear 2 only released in Japan for the MSX2. And at this point, again, like early in the series, they had no idea where this franchise was going. When they started using these composites, they started using portraits, and they made portraits of the characters just kind of look like Hollywood action stars at the time.
Yeah.
So,
you mean Sean Connery here in this picture?
and
Yeah.
Mel Gibson on the left
And Mel
hand. This is
Gibson,
Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon. Yeah. So this is a picture of Snake and Big Boss, who are just fucking Mel Gibson and Sean Connery. Just
They
straight
sure
up.
are.
Yeah, because you could get away with this at this time. Because
You sure
So-
could.
If you go to the next screen, next image, so image 4, this is, so they eventually did re-release Metal Gear 2 to a worldwide audience, but it wasn't until, actually it was available on the Wii, if you can believe that. It was emulated on the Wii, on Virtual Console.
I
but
can't
it was also,
believe that. Virtual Console had a lot of games.
It was also available, because it was originally made available for the GameCube remaster called the Twin Snakes, which we will talk about. So the first two rows here are the original portraits, these are all different, like literally just different movie, different actors, and one of them is Albert Einstein.
One of them is different.
One of them is
Albert Einstein.
Albert Einstein.
Yep.
I think.
And then,
I think. Wait, does anybody else think that the guy to the right of Solid Snake looks like Kevin Spacey?
Yeah.
Not
he's
Kevin
I think,
Spacey at this time, though.
Not-
That's
He's-
what's
Yeah.
confusing me, right?
I think he's supposed to be, who played who was the guy in Godfather, the white guy in he played
Al
the
Pacino?
consigliere. No, he played the consigliere in Godfather. He was also an elf. He was the dad in Elf. James Caan.
yeah.
I almost
Like
defaulted
James
to
Caan or
Ronald Reagan, but I don't think that's right either.
Yeah. That's Roy Campbell. Yeah, the Albert Einstein character, that one's really funny. You've got
there's-
Gray Fox, who is Sylvester Stallone.
I was gonna say this is Stallone
Yeah,
next
yeah.
to Sean Connery there.
Yeah.
The Mikhail Gorbachev looking dude in the bottom left of the second row. His sprite 2 down is way more like mischievous.
Yeah. They turned him into a Street Fighter character.
You don't know what I'm doing.
So the bottom two rows then are the retconned versions. So some of these characters don't show up again, but that the third row does. That's obviously Solid Snake, the first one, and then you've got Roy Campbell, you've got Master Miller, who's in MGS, and then of course Big Boss and Gray Fox, who are important characters. So yeah, I think that's kind of a fun little
I
bit.
love that.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into Metal Gear Solid. I hope you guys are ready. Let's do it. All right, we're back. Let's get into Metal Gear Solid. The year is 2005. So generally, these take place 5 or 6 years after, later than the year that they the year that they're coming out. So
Gotcha.
This game came out in 98. The year set in the game, 2005. Cool. So 2005, this is 6 years after Big Boss's defeat at Zanzibar Land. Solid Snake has retired from Foxhound and is now living in the Alaskan woods racing sled dogs. And he's got a sick
dope.
beard. Yeah.
Is he
Who
about to get
amongst
pulled out
us?
of retirement?
No, of course not. Oh, but wait. He's pulled back from retirement by the U.S. Secretary of Defense by way of also retired Colonel Roy Campbell for one last job because, well, actually, the new people who are leading Foxhound have been doing some real shady shit. Most notably, they just gone and seized control of a nuclear weapons disposal facility called Shadow Moses, located in the very real...
Fuck yeah.
Right? Good name.
Yeah.
And it's located in the very real Fox Islands archipelago. That's the islands off of Alaska.
Oh, dope.
The ones that do like the hook. Yeah, off of
Okay,
Alaska.
I have heard Shadow Moses before.
Yeah.
We're hitting some touchstones here.
I think you are going to recognize more than you think you will.
I bet.
I do. This is definitely in the like collective conscious zeitgeist kind of a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the bit here is the Foxhound terrorists have threatened to turn the nuclear payload of the new Metal Gear Rex model. So again, we already know there's Metal Gear. Metal Gear's, we don't know at this time there's a nuclear payload. It's just like we've got a bunch of weapons and we're going to turn them back on the states. If they don't receive $1 billion and the remains of Big Boss. Remember how Big Boss got torched to death in the last game?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well, if they're going to reincarnate him, they need his parts.
Yeah,
Right?
if they're gonna
Correct,
clone
Matt.
him, they need a DNA
Matt, I
sample.
need you to stop reading ahead.
I'm not. I'm fucking, I'm in the frequency.
Yeah, no, because you've seen a spy thriller before.
Yep.
So Solid Snake is tasked with infiltrating the facility, finding out what's going on, what do they actually have access to, and then rescuing 2 hostages. One of them is Donald Anderson, the DARPA chief, which is a made-up organization, and then Kenneth Baker, who is the president of Arms Tech, which is another made-up organization. It's like a Stark Industries kind of a thing. So he's got to rescue these 2 hostages and, more or less neutralize the threat, et cetera, et cetera. This new Foxhound unit consists of the following. We've got Interrogation Specialist Revolver Ocelot. So we got that one early.
I see what we're doing.
Yep.
Undercover Operative Decoy Octopus.
What a good one.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
good.
These are also Mega Man bosses.
Yup.
Yeah.
Long range weapons expert Sniper Wolf.
Or Sonic characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Psychic and telepathic, whatever, Psycho Mantis.
Good.
And heavy gunner / shaman Vulcan Raven.
There's
My
our
boy!
boy.
That's our boy. Leading this band of brothers, if you will, is a man calling himself Liquid Snake.
The island of the misfit toys we have here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the hired guard patrolling this entire facility are made up of soldiers from the Next Generation Special Forces, aka Genome Soldiers, all of whom have special DNA injected into them.
They're Captain America's.
They're more like clones from Star Wars. They're like Jango
okay.
Fett, Attack
Gotcha.
of the Clones 2 clones. Yeah,
Okay.
they're stormtroopers. So we've got the bad guys. The good guys, assisting Colonel Campbell and Snake in leading this mission, are geneticist Dr. Naomi Hunter, who is Image 5. Now, these next 4 are going to be... Okay, so let me explain these images. These are all codec transmissions. So Metal Gear Solid 1 has, 1, a lot of cutscenes, and 2, was developed for the PlayStation 1. So a lot of the dialogue takes place in these kind of almost visual novel-esque portraits that are just like dialogue, but these are codec entries, or codec scenes. So when anyone calls Snake, it flips to this little screen with the frequency of the codec and the 2 portraits, and they're talking. And most of the dialogue is presented this way outside of like action cutscenes. So Snake's entire team, and this carries through all of the games, actually. Snake's got this like team of remote people who he never sees in person. They're all, it's Q, it's M, it's all the people back at HQ that are feeding him information, right? So we get the people who call into the codex. So this first person here is Colonel Campbell. This next person is Dr. Naomi Hunter. And then we've got Mei Ling, who is the what is she? She's like the analyst. And then we've got one more who is Master Miller. He's the drill instructor guy, and he's kind of on his own. But the whole bit here is, again, these guys are all like doing the thing. They're at HQ. They're looking at the computers. They're like, Snake, do this. Snake, do that. When in reality, in the game, you can call in. So the codec is a very like thing that a very real thing, key item that you can interact with. And you can call different frequencies. So Campbell will be like, Snake, call me at 140.85. You have to use the space button to do that. Like he does that whole thing. They loved tutorials.
Oh, yeah.
But you can call different, you can call like whatever number, and they're like Easter eggs if you call different codec frequencies that you don't know about. And there's actually like, again, this is where the game starts to break the fourth wall is you have to find different codec entries to reach out to people. There's other things like Mei Ling is the research analyst, but she saves your game. She just says like, Snake, I'll help you save your game. And that's literally like what she says.
Cool. Love it.
Naomi, she'll give you like flavor text like, Snake, you're in a room that has this like really rare flower or whatever. And he'll be like, I live in Alaska and there's something about wolves. Like it's like whatever.
Sure.
And then finally we've got Master Miller, who he's kind of this like hermit who lives on a mountain, and he's like, Snake, you have to adopt close quarters combat. He's like very like, whatever. So he helps
lives
you
up in a mountain, looks like Lieutenant Surge.
Yeah, Lieutenant Surge. Okay, so Snake arrives outside of the Shadow Moses complex. He remarks to Naomi Hunter how the nanomachines that she injected him with are helping him stave off the Alaskan cold. I will explain. So the thing about this world is anything that is unexplained is explained by nanomachines.
Oh, okay. It's an MCU play.
It's an MCU play, 1,000%.
MCU ripped this page out of the Metal Gear Solid.
They really did. This is like, I think this is the first Deus Ex Machina, Deus Ex Nanomachia.
Nanotech.
Yeah, blah, 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 nanotech. So the bit here is Naomi Hunter is a geneticist, and she injected Snake with stuff that would basically like prevent him from freezing. And he's got this super high-tech suit that is like, it's skin tight, but it also allows him to dive, but it also protects him from the cold, yada, yada, yada. And it's a sneaking suit.
Great.
Campbell explains to Snake that Campbell took this mission and asked for Snake's help, partly because he believes that his niece Meryl is among the hostages in the compound. So Campbell has a personal stake in this. After he arrives, Snake clocks the leader of the new Foxhound unit, the man who calls himself Liquid Snake, and looks suspiciously similar to Solid Snake, although he has blonde long hair. And an English accent.
Oh, yeah, well, there it is.
Yeah. And a mustache and a sombrero.
Campbell informs Snake his first target is the DARPA chief, Donald Anderson. These are one of those two key hostages. Snake infiltrates the facility via air duct and drops down into Anderson's cell. He talks to Anderson, informs him that Metal Gear... So Anderson tells him, yes, Metal Gear Rex is 1,000% operational, and yes, the terrorists can definitely launch its nukes. Oh, shit, did I tell you there are nukes as well?
There's nukes.
So Snake's like, Colonel Campbell, what the fuck? So Anderson tells Snake that the nukes can be launched using two passwords. It's just like a nuclear sub. One from Anderson and the other from the Arms Tech president, Kenneth Baker, which I said is also being held here. He's being held on a lower level. The last piece of information is he says Ocelot, while Ocelot, who is Revolver Ocelot, was interrogating everybody, he says Ocelot was unsuccessful in torturing it from me. Unfortunately, my password was forcibly pulled out of my brain by Psycho Bantus. He could just do psychic stuff.
Neat.
So this is Donald Anderson on image 9, DARPA Chief Donald Anderson.
This
You
is
can count every
PS1.
pixel in that picture.
So I love watching the cinematics of this game because again, like it's a thing of its time. Late 90s era games are rough to go through, the PS1 era games, but like because of the limitations of the hardware, like they did all of the like movie quality cutscenes, but it's all these like plastic doll like people just kind of bobbing their heads without moving their mouths.
And we all said at the time how realistic it looks. And
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. But it is very funny, very silly to go back to. Immediately after this info dump, the DARPA chief suddenly and unexpectedly collapses and dies to what Snake and Campbell assume is a lightning-fast heart attack.
Oh, just a spontaneous
he just
heart
says-
attack.
Spontaneous heart attack.
Yep, spontaneous heart. He screams. He says, "Why?" and then dies. And Snake's like,
My bone-itis.
yeah. And Snake's like, "Campbell, what the fuck?" While this is going on, there's a woman in the next cell over. She's doing sit-ups, and she starts to eavesdrop, and she eventually escapes her cell by tricking a guard and stealing his uniform. This guard, who she will later marry 30 years later, but we'll get there later. Snake,
Whoa.
yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Great.
Yeah. Snake encounters this prisoner in disguise and it identifies her as, this is probably Campbell's niece, Meryl. And he calls her out and says, like, "You're a rookie. You look like a rookie." And she's like, "I'm not a rookie." He's like, "Your hands are trembling." I should also note, Solid Snake is voiced by the incomparable David Hayter, who at this time was not a voice actor, just a dude.
Just
Some guy.
David Hayter.
Hey. He was a voice actor, Andrew. He's voice acting right. He's voice acting right now.
He is a voice actor now. So David Hayter became a voice actor. He became the voice of Solid Snake. David Hayter, also fun note, wrote X-Men and X2.
Huh.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was also the screenwriter of X-Men and X2.
Well, what do you know?
But here he's the voice of Solid Snake, and he was up until MGS5, where I had noted that he was replaced by Kiefer Sutherland.
I could see the plots of X1 and X2 being Metal Gear plots. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
You
he
know?
didn't write Metal Gear, but yeah, I mean,
I know,
you know,
but like
there's
he
strange bedfellows for sure.
He borrowed.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. So Snake heads to the lower levels to find. Oh, actually, well, I should say. So he meets up with who he thinks is Meryl, and she's like, "I'm not a rookie," blah blah blah. And then Psycho Mantis appears, and she acts all weird and just kind of runs away. And he's like, "That's
Psycho
Floating
Mantis
Man."
or Meryl?
Psycho Mantis, who we don't know is Psycho Mantis. We just see a floating man in a straitjacket, and he's just floating in a gas mask.
But
That's weird
we don't know the floating man in a gas mask is Psycho Mantis yet.
at this point. Correct.
Gotcha.
We can assume.
All right.
So Snake heads to the lower levels to find Kenneth Baker. Kenneth Baker is tied up to a pillar that's connected to a bunch of charges of C4. And Snake kind of approaches and he hears, "Not so fast, Snake." And this is the first of our many bosses, Revolver Ocelot, who in Image 10. So Revolver Ocelot is probably the second most important character in this entire franchise.
Oh.
Yeah. He's not
old
that
man.
big a deal. He is an old man, but he talks like this.
Of course. Well, he's the bad guy.
Yeah. But we don't know he's that important. He's just kind of like a stooge here. And all his whole thing is like he really likes torturing people and he spins his gun around on his finger. And that's like his
Just
whole
like
thing.
an ocelot.
Just like an ocelot.
Isn't an ocelot a type of like large cat?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
predator
Great.
cat. Also, so Revolver Ocelot appears in MGS3 as a young man, and he fucking meows.
Good. Does he
Had to get
still
a name somehow.
talk like this?
No, he's
Meow.
no, he talks like this, and he's like, "Go get him!" Meow.
He's a Naruto character, is what he is.
Oh my god.
None of that is made up.
I wasn't going to accuse you of that.
Yeah.
So we get our first boss fight between Snake and Ocelot. They just have like a gunfight in this very small room littered with explosives until we get cutscene. They're intervened by a third party in the form of an invisible sword, hacking off Ocelot's right arm, like just clean off, just like, "Oh, my arm."
No.
The wielder of this sword is a cyborg ninja who can go in and out of invisibility just at will.
It's Genji.
Tight.
Yeah, it's Genji. It's kind of
Good.
Genji.
Hey, I'm back.
So Ocelot's like, oh fuck my arm, and just kind of like runs off. And the ninja just slices down Baker from the pillar of C4, and then the ninja's like, he starts to short circuit, like literally short circuit. Then he runs away. And Snake's like, Campbell, what the fuck? There's a lot of like, Campbell, what the fuck in this. So he goes to Baker. Now it's just Baker and Snake, the guy he's supposed to save. And Baker's like, it's too late. I already gave my password to Ocelot while he was torturing me because I'm just a guy. I'm just a man, and I can't withstand torture. But hey, don't worry, because my card key is also with that nice girl Meryl, who just stopped by disguised as a soldier or whatever.
Okay.
Or whatever.
So Snake's like, cool. Baker then, so now we start to get a little bit of the, okay, who knows what? We start to get into the spy thriller. Snake suggests that Snake's like, what's that? Who's that ninja?
My favorite Tracy Jordan movie.
Yeah, Who Dat Ninja. That's for me. Baker says like, your friend Naomi knows who that ninja is, which is a wild sentence.
That is a
sure
wild
is.
sentence.
He also kind of implies that Colonel Campbell knows a lot more about this operation than he's letting on. Also, another curiosity, Snake's like, did Psycho Manus try to pull it out of you? And Baker's like, no, my nano machines block any psychic intervention.
Cool.
And Snake's like, that's weird. DARPA chief told me that's how he got his password. And Baker's like, well, that's not did you hear him right? Because he should have had those nano machines too.
Spy thriller.
Spy thriller. So the next thread is Baker says, if you want, now you need to, the only way to stop Metal Gear is to find the my chief engineer for Arms Tech, Dr. Hal Emmerich, who is located somewhere deeper in the base. Immediately after this,
your princess is in another castle.
Princess is in another castle.
Yeah.
More breadcrumbs. Immediately after this info dump, Baker suddenly and unexpectedly collapses and dies. To what Snake and Campbell also assume is a lightning fast heart attack.
I know
Just
we're
a
going
real
to get an
string of those
answer.
going around.
Yeah.
I know we're going to get an answer, but I just really like the idea they're like, that NPC is done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we are done with that NPC and cut. That's a wrap. That's a wrap.
I
Baker.
love that everyone has nanobots in their bloodstream, and no one assumes the nanobots are the reason two people have instantly dropped dead.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine and not going to be a problem later.
Yeah.
Their deaths are both really great too, specifically Baker's, because he's like, no, why? and then he like clutches himself on his knees. He's like, the Pentagon, I can't believe them. Like he's like, I've been betrayed. It's really fucking good. This
so
game rules,
good.
man. This game is the best. Snake contacts Meryl on codec. Now I want to talk about how this works. So image 11 is the back of the CD case of Metal Gear Solid 1. I mentioned that this game breaks the fourth wall a lot, and this is kind of the first major instance. So Baker tells Snake, you have to contact Meryl on her codec. He doesn't give you a frequency, so you have to find that frequency. There is nowhere in the game that will give you the frequency to Meryl's codec, except a screenshot, a small screenshot at the bottom of the back of the case of the original release of Metal Gear Solid 1.
That's cool.
That rules, dude.
Isn't that really good?
That's so good.
Now,
I would have
certainly not-
hated that in
Oh, yeah.
1998.
Yeah.
But that's
well,
so
and like
good.
the bane of any kid who rented this game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, certainly not the first time a game has done that, right? A lot of the like King's Quest, Space Quest, like notorious for
Right.
doing this kind of shit, but did it in a way that isn't like necessarily like a DRM kind of
Yeah.
maneuver. Like it really was just like a fun little,
Yeah.
intended to be like a fun little nod. So Snake finally hooks up with or starts to contact Meryl on the way of so they go meet up and then they go to find Hal Emmerich. Hal also is named after Hal from 2001: A Space Odyssey.
2001. Yeah.
Ah, cool.
Snake. I should have mentioned Snake is very much taken from Snake Plissken, which is
Escape from New York. Yeah.
Main character in Escape from New York.
Nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of movie references. On the way, Snake gets a call from a mysterious figure calling themselves Deep Throat, which
Nice.
he literally says from the Watergate scandal.
I was
Like,
I
that's
was
great.
gonna say from the Watergate scandal.
Yeah.
Wow.
So JFK, I think we assume that JFK was assassinated.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
at the very least, Nixon was still Nixon was still elected
if-
president.
If Watchmen told me anything, JFK
Nixon
died
does-
so that Nixon could do crimes.
Fair enough.
Okay. Where are we? So he gets a call from Deep Throat and says there's a tank blocking your way. And then Snake emerges to find a tank blocking his way, piloted by our boy Vulcan Raven in Image 12.
Hell yeah. There's
Boy.
that guy I talked about one time 3 years ago.
That's right. So Vulcan Raven appears twice in this game. There are actually 2 boss fights with him. This first one is just him on a Gatling gun in the back of a tank shooting at you, and you have to like throw grenades at the tank. He doesn't die. He gets away. We'll see Vulcan Raven later. So that tank boss is done. Snake eventually finds Hal Emmerich in a lab. But he's just in time. He's in the process of being cornered by the cyborg ninja. Snake intervenes and the two of them fight. The ninja does some cool flippy sword tricks.
Nice.
After they fight, the ninja starts to short circuit again and starts talking about like, I've not felt this pain in years. And he goes, Snake, do you recognize me? Do you recognize me, Snake? And Snake's like, holy shit, it's Frank Yeager. So this is Frank Yeager, aka Gray Fox, the man that Snake
What a
Snake
pull.
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
absolutely killed in Zanzibar land.
Yeah.
Image 13 is the cyborg ninja.
Good.
He's great. So Gray
also
Fox
an assist trophy.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Gray Fox flips out, he short circuits again, and he leaves Snake and Hal. Hal tells Snake that, well, I didn't intend on making a walking nuclear tank. I just wanted to build a cool robot, like from my Japanese animations.
What?
So Image 14, this is Dr. Hal Emmerich, aka Otacon. Otacon is one of the other most important characters in the Metal Gear Solid franchise. He is introduced as a hyper nerd. He calls himself Otacon, and because the game explains, stands for Otaku Convention.
Good.
Really?
That's so.
Um,
I just love I didn't think of the implications, the military
Right.
implications of this walking nuclear robot I built.
yeah, I just wanted to build a Gundam.
I didn't think about all the wars the Gundams
Yeah.
fought in.
Also, the backstory of Otacon is fucking horrifying. So Otacon's grandfather, unnamed, that we never get a name. Otacon's grandfather was one of the scientists in the Manhattan Project. Otacon's father is, I think, the second most like sociopath of the series. Otacon's father, his name is Huey Emmerich. He's actually a pivotal character in the Big Boss era, the Big Bossiverse. But Otacon's whole backstory is his father raised him in a lab. His father was testing Metal Gear pilots and had like put baby Otacon in the pilot seat of a walking nuclear tank
Oh, man.
to test it. And then Otacon's mother sent him to America to live with a foster family. His father later then came back to America after his mom died because she was she was killed by his father and then put in an AI pod. That's a whole other, we won't get there. And then Otacon's father dies because he finds out that Otacon was having an affair with the woman that his dad married.
Oh.
Yeah, and Otacon's crippled father, a paraplegic father, drowns himself in a pool.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's wild. But you don't know any of that yet. We just know this is a kind of a fun little piss boy because when the ninja attacks, part of the cinematic is the camera pans down to show Otacon pissing
peed his
himself.
pants.
Yeah,
Wow.
and it's like this. There's like steam that comes up from his pants and everything. Like the camera really just kind of focuses on him pissing himself.
Kojima's a freak.
He's a fucking
Yeah.
He's a criminal, man.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. Here's the other thing. Snake's like, "You're not dying of a heart attack. Why?" And Otacon's like, "I don't know. Why are you being so weird?" And so they predator handshake and then become best friends forever and ever.
I love it.
Yeah,
Cool.
he's great. He's a good character.
Every friendship needs an origin story.
Yeah,
it's true.
So this is your cue. He's the tech guy, right?
Yep.
He's the one who's like, "Snake, there's a door open here." Like he inserts himself as that kind of. He's Simon Pegg for Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Okay, so Snake pursues Meryl to where Psycho Mantis is hiding. Psycho Mantis is hiding in a library and is controlling Meryl like a puppet because of his psychic abilities. And this is the famous boss battle that everybody knows. Psycho Mantis tells Snake, "I can read your mind," because everybody has this voice. So the whole bit here, if anybody doesn't know, if you played this on the original PS1, Psycho Mantis would read the memory card. And if you had any other Konami games like Castlevania Symphony of the Night or any other ones, Psycho Mantis would say, like, "I hear you like, I see you like Castlevania," right?
I hear you're a big fan of the Ape Escape games.
Exactly. But the other kind of crux of this battle is Psycho Mantis doesn't allow you to do anything. So anytime you fire a gun, he'll block it. Anytime you try to shoot something at him, whatever, you can't make any moves, right? And he'll just counterattack. And that is because Psycho Mantis, it's an impossible battle to win unless you quote like jam his psychic abilities, which is switching the controller ports.
Right.
Which
is awesome. Like
Very cool.
everyone once we found out about that, awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. That is, so a picture of Psycho Mantis is in, this is number 15. And I realized that I forgot to put a picture of Meryl here. So this is actually part of this boss battle is you have to kind of subdue Meryl, who's trying to kill you. And then you have to also fight Psycho Mantis, who's like telekinesis throwing books and shit at you.
Just what an understanding of the medium. Like,
right.
Again,
Yeah.
coming back to like, these games are evidence for the video games can be art argument.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
On the first PlayStation. So good.
1000%. So we defeat Psycho Mantis, and this is the first like actual boss death. So this begins the very tropey, like in their final moments we get their monologue and like all of their life's regrets and all that. So Psycho Mantis talks. He gives his monologue about how he's only ever used his telepath powers for evil ever since his hometown was burned to the ground, and he was seen as a monster by his family, all that stuff. He reads through Snake's mind once more and says like, I see the same sorrow and pain in you than I see in myself, and like we are both victims of circumstance or whatever, and is basically like. He's like, I'm going to do something good with my powers for the first time, and opens a bookcase and reveals the path forward for Snake and Meryl. Cool.
Nice.
So, yeah, so they continue through the facility. Unfortunately, Meryl is shot in the chest immediately by an unseen...
Gotta fridge a character every once in a while.
That's how the Bond girls go.
That's how the Bond girls go. So she's shot in the chest by an unseen sniper rifle bullet. Snake's like, "No, Meryl!" And then he doubles back through the facility to find a sniper rifle so he can have a sniper duel with... I think we can all guess who this is. It's Sniper Wolf.
It's Sniper Wolf.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Except Snake doesn't make it back to the place where Meryl was lying dead. Instead, he gets cornered and captured by Ocelot, who shows back up again, and he strings him up to a torture device to try and so that he can find out what Snake knows about Metal Gear. And this is in image 16.
Does Ocelot have a new arm?
This is an ocelot in this image. This is
No, I know.
Oh, okay. I have an answer for that, but I can't tell you that answer yet.
I think that
great.
I remember the answer to that question from the last time we talked about Metal
I
Gear.
won't tell you if you're wrong or right, but do you want to guess?
Yeah, isn't it that like isn't Liquid Snake in Revolver Ocelot's arm? Isn't his
We'll have
arm
to
Liquid
find out
Snake?
later.
Fuck.
I'm not saying yes or no.
I don't want to breeze by this image without commenting how awkwardly shaped that polygon body is.
They definitely didn't change the character model, and they're like arm go here, leg go here.
Yeah.
The arms don't bend that way. Well, make them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
It's a rough image,
but it
here.
doesn't look normal. That's a torture device. I don't know.
This is also a pretty famous part of the game. So you have to mash the so on the prompt here. There's 2 prompts. It says life up or give up.
Oh,
And
those are
and
the
you
only
have
2
to-
options.
Yeah, and you have to mash the X button to survive the torture. And there is a fail state. You have to mash it like pretty hard. And this game actually has 2 endings, which I'll talk about, but it's all based on if you win or lose this torture minigame.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Which one is the canon ending? I guess we got to get there.
There is a canon ending. It's the good ending. It's the canon ending.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Which is
if you
established
win
in MGS4.
if you win the
Yes,
okay.
that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. So things really start to unravel for Snake after he's taken to a cell that's shared by the corpse of Donald Anderson, the DARPA chief. The thing is, he looks way more decomposed than someone who died a couple hours ago at this point. So that's weird. Also, Snake is super not trusting Campbell, who is still kind of like letting on that he knows more than it seems. Naomi also reveals that she knew about Gray Fox being taken from Zanzibar land. Essentially, he got the Wolverine Weapon X treatment, is the shorthand for that. He was taken to a lab, black, blah, 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 black science, treated, experimented on, yada, yada, fused with a cyborg exoskeleton ninja suit. You know how it is.
Yada yada
Yeah,
yada.
that's how it goes.
He is literally, I know that you just said the X-23 treatment, but that's Genji. Like, that's
Yes,
just...
sir. That's Genji.
Which would be that Genji is just the cyborg ninja from Metal Gear.
I think Genji is the cyborg ninja from Metal Gear. Yeah. Otacon appears. So Otacon also has that invisible camo, so he just kind of blips in and out. And he hands Snake some ketchup packets, and he's like, Snake, you got to get out of jail. And this is a very silly scene where Snake uses ketchup packets. He like kind of lies on the ground and he covers himself with ketchup, to make it seem like he's like injured or dead. There's a guard who also has explosive diarrhea and is like, my ass. Like he's literally like you can hear like, and he's like, oh, I gotta poop.
Once again,
it's very
why video games should be considered art.
Yeah.
Yep. So he tricks this guard into opening his cell, and then he frees himself. We assume canonically doesn't kill the guard because this is the same guard who comes back in MGS4, but we'll get there later. And he goes to confront Sniper Wolf and find Meryl. On the way, we get another sighting of Liquid Snake. Now, the way that Liquid Snake talks is, so Liquid Snake is voiced by a man named Cam Clark, who is very Shakespearean. So he comes on the scene, he's like,
cool.
brother! Like, he's very like Thor 1 Loki.
Yeah.
Like, the honestly, the Liquid and Solid relationship it's 1000% Thor and Loki. Like, that's the vibe. So he comes in, he's like, brother, thank you for coming and viewing blah blah blah. Like he's that kind of cadence. He's got flowing long blonde hair,
Yeah.
So he's also piloting a Hind D Russian gunship, which is again just military nonsense. So they fight. Snake shoots rocket launchers at a helicopter, as you do in these games. Otacon, after the fight, Otacon assists Snake in getting closer through the facility. So again, Otacon's now mostly on the codec. He's kind of replaced Colonel Campbell as the like, go here, do this guy. So Snake's searching for Meryl. The whole time, Otacon's like in and out chatting Snake up about like he's got a crush on somebody. He's like, Snake, have you ever been in love? And Solid Snake's like, yeah. And again, like Solid Snake, like completely deadpans, like, yeah, I think I have been in love. And Otacon's like, Snake, could love eat bloom even on a battlefield? Like, Snake, like, I think so. The thing about being a soldier is this, Otacon. It's like, good. It's great. It's so stupid and great. So Snake encounters Sniper Wolf. We have a sniper duel in an open snowy field. And then they go back and forth. We do that boss fight. She dies. Otacon appears and is like, no, this was the woman I loved. How could you kill her? And Snake's like, I did it for Meryl, and it's like,
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
We get her death, which there's like a pack of wolves howling on a cliffside.
Sure.
And recreates a Three Wolf Moon t-shirt in game.
Yeah. So Snake and Otacon split for a while. Otacon's mourning Sniper Wolf's death. Snake heads into the core facility to finally take down Metal Gear Rex. He's ambushed in a warehouse by none other than Vulcan Raven, who this is where we get the Spirit Raven. So Vulcan Raven is sporting just carrying a Gatling gun, just a straight up Gatling gun.
As you do.
And he's got a whole mess of Spirit Ravens because Vulcan Raven's whole thing is that he's a shaman, and he's got like this raven tattoo on his forehead that he kind of like the screen gets all fuzzy and like a picture of a raven like flies from his forehead. He's like, caw, and then like paralyzes the person in front of him. That's the whole bit.
That's
It's dumb. It's really dumb.
like the dumbest riff on like G.I. Joe like archetypes, and it's so good. It's
Right. Fucking good. And he has the whole thing about like ravens are actually really smart. Do you know that they're called murders? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
we get it.
About
Like, ravens are cool. Okay. So that's image 18 is our final fight with Vulcan Raven. This voice line here is, the Raven has put the mark of death on you.
How many
Cool.
how many times does this character say nevermore in
He never once. Honestly, he doesn't. I know that's a bummer.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah.
cultural differences?
Was that us talking about the Baltimore Ravens are named after the Ravens because Edgar Allan Poe was born in Baltimore?
I don't know if
that is
we
a thing.
talked about that, but I did know that.
I didn't know that until recently. I think
In the
that's
spirit of the
phenomenal.
Baltimore Ravens is to
to
win.
win.
Yes, we've been
Exactly.
through this.
Yes.
Yeah. I named the notes of this episode, the spirit of the Patriots is to win, and anybody who knows Metal Gear will know that that's a very good joke.
Okay.
Anyway, yep. So after the fight,
Andrew, you did a good job. You did a good job, son.
How Andrew, how only for Andrew that was, and how none of us reacted to it because it
somebody
was only
laughed.
for Andrew.
Somebody out there laughed. I have
And
to
everyone
believe it.
clapped.
Okay, so we fight Vulcan Raven. Vulcan Raven, in his death monologue, reveals to Snake that the DARPA chief that he watched die was actually their own guy. This was Decoy Octopus in disguise.
Oh.
So the reason why...
Decoy. Yeah.
So the reason why Donald Anderson was all decomposed is because he actually had died way before Snake even entered the facility. The man that Snake thought he saved was Decoy Octopus. However, then you have to ask yourself, well, why did he die? And that's the piece that we don't know yet. We don't get yet.
He was too close to the real answer.
Too close to the real answer. So Master Miller calls Snake. Now, Master Miller's role in this is pretty minor. He's just another kind of codec face. But Master Miller starts to get more involved in the story, and he calls Snake and says, hey, Naomi Hunter, the geneticist, I think she's a double agent, and she's actually working for Liquid Snake. And she says that because of her ties to Gray Fox. And then Snake's like, Campbell, what the fuck? And Campbell then clams up. And so now you've got like Master Miller and Snake are like, well, what the fuck's going on? Campbell, meanwhile, every time they mention the 2 deaths of those men, Campbell's like, oh, shoot. No, that's totally normal and definitely a heart attack. You know?
Yep.
So Snake's like,
coincidence.
Campbell,
They
what the
both
fuck?
had super sudden heart attacks. Yeah.
right, exactly.
I hear that's been going around.
Yay, you know, you hate to see it. So Snake finally makes it to the lowest depths of the facility where Rex is being held. We get an info dump about the history and the politics of arms tech. Long story short, this whole thing was kind of a last-ditch effort for arms tech to maintain their own finances. Basically, like, they were exchanging nuclear power with the government, the U.S. government, through bribes. So, again, some real, like, spy thriller fucking shit. This also does not paint the U.S. government in a good light at all.
No.
Ever.
Yeah.
No.
Never once does Metal Gear paint the U.S. government in a good light, as it should.
Well, the 90s and 2000s were a different time.
They sure were.
That they were.
Yeah. Also, so Liquid Snake, this is where we get more Liquid Snake. And he's, brother, here's my monologue. So he explains that his whole kind of ploy with using Metal Gear Rex was to ignite an all-out World War III between the major superpowers. You know how you do. This was because the world didn't know of the nuclear capabilities of Metal Gear Rex. They thought everybody thinks this is a nuclear disposal facility. In actuality, it was a testing facility for nuclear weapons. So the U.S. isn't supposed to have this, which, you know, the UN isn't aware of it, right? It's all that kind of thing. So Liquid plans on kind of revealing that, like, hey, China, the U.S. has been secretly building nukes this whole time. Also, do you want to buy the U.S.'s secret nukes? So he's trying to just like ignite the fires because he wants to do this so that he can realize Big Boss's dream of a sovereign state for soldiers free of borders and politics. He wants to turn Shadow Moses into the next Outer Heaven.
Oh.
Just a sovereign citizen.
Just a sovereign state, much like the Bomb King. Outer Heaven, if you don't remember, Outer Heaven was the compound from the first game.
Yeah.
Right.
So Big Boss's dream is this like free nation for military where they can just do whatever the fuck they want and they have no borders.
He wants to make it. It's like he wants to make Rhodesia or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I always think of the Republic of Dan from Fallout 3.
Yeah.
The Republic
Yes.
of Dave. Yeah. Yeah, it's like that.
Yep.
So that's the bit. Naomi calls, which is weird because at this point she supposedly had been arrested by Colonel Campbell. Naomi reveals that Frank Yeager, aka Gray Fox, was actually her brother. Not blood brother, but rather adopted brother. See, it's funny you just mentioned Rhodesia because Naomi Hunter's whole backstory is her parents were killed in the Rhodesian Civil War in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's funny you mented Rhodesia is not a sentence that
ironic.
I ever thought I'd hear in my
It's
life.
ironic that you
Right.
mentioned Rhodesia.
There's our pull quote.
So Metal Gear just throws in the Rhodesian Civil War here out of nowhere. Because again, they get a little fucky with the alternative timeline. Like there's very real events, world history events that they reference, and then there's also like Zanzibar land. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, so Naomi's village was like burned down, and Frank Yeager was the guy who like saved her, essentially, like who rescued her from the burning wreckage.
Did
And
he
then-
burn the village down?
Well,
is this
we
a
find
John
out-
Smith kind of
We
situation?
find out later that he super burned the village down.
Yeah, there it is. Okay.
Yeah. And then so he kind of like adopted her as like his little sister because again, this is a Japanese developed medium.
Mm-hmm.
And Big Boss brought the both of them to America, to whom that they remained loyal up to the incident at Zanzibar. So after Gray Fox's apparent death, Naomi vowed revenge on Snake for him killing her brother and planned to get her revenge through injecting him with this nanomachine virus called Fox Dye. So remember
Okay.
how each time you guys were like, that's weird that those guys died at heart attacks. That they weren't heart attacks, believe it or not. I don't know if you picked that
Whoa,
up.
what?
Oh, wait.
Yeah, it's wild. So Snake, in addition to his like cocktail of nanomachines, was secretly injected with this virus called Fox Dye. The whole point of the virus, this is a genetic virus. This virus is designed to respond to certain genetic patterns, and when placed in the proximity of another genetic pattern, will trigger an instant death, like a heart attack. Conveniently.
This is, man, all right, not to do the James Bond thing again, but this is just No Time to Die. This is the whole plot of the last James Bond movie.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, what are you going to do, right? So, this Fox Dye virus was originally intended for Anderson, Baker, and the other members of Foxhound, but Naomi modified it to slowly kill Solid Snake. So she basically is like, at any time, you'll just curl up and die. Deuces. Deuces.
Yeah, I mean, won't we all?
Yeah.
Who's
Right.
among us, right?
Right. I mean, eat Arby's. And then Naomi's like, in order to try to redeem her, Naomi's like, but I don't hate you anymore because you said a lot of really nice things about my brother after you killed him for the second time, and I forgive you. And then the line is cut short by Campbell. So Snake's like, cool. So Snake finishes a series of tasks and opening doors and getting key cards and all that stuff. And he believes to be deactivating Rex, but in actuality is activating it.
Oh,
And that is revealed by after he gets another call from Master Miller, who says, "Ha, it was me the whole time, Liquid Snake."
Great.
So
Can't believe Lieutenant Surge would do us like that.
he did us real dirty. This is confirmed when Campbell calls Snake and is like, "Snake, bad news. We just found Master Miller's body dead in a cabin.
Whoops.
He's been dead for a long time."
He mysteriously had a heart attack.
Yeah. He's dead by unknown assailant. We still don't know to this day who killed Master Miller.
I mean, I feel like we got a good idea.
Who knows? I'm shrugging. No one can hear me shrug. So Liquid via codec is like, "Wait right there," and then just appears because he's been there the whole time. So he explains to Snake that that Snake's been a pawn of the Pentagon this whole time, and the real purpose of this operation was to use Snake as a way to spread the Fox Dye virus.
Oh, okay.
So the Pentagon basically like sent Snake in to clean up the mess of Shadow Moses.
Got it.
As they are wont to do.
Yep.
One more Ranger reveal to go. Liquid traps Snake in the Rex control room where he is and begins to fill it with deadly gas because of course he does.
Yep.
Right.
And as the room is filling with gas, he informs Snake of the Les Enfants Terribles project.
Run that by me again.
The
Les
terrible
Enfants,
babies.
The terrible babies.
Really?
Yeah.
I
Damn,
got you.
son.
Yeah, Les Enfants Terribles. This was a secret black science operation in the 70s that was intended to create clones of Big Boss, the world's greatest soldier.
Oh, okay.
The ensuing result of this project were two babies, one of whom represented all of Big Boss's dominant genes, and one who represented all of his recessive genes.
One of which was made of solid, the other which was made of liquid.
Liquid.
Yep. So Liquid tells Solid Snake that he was the dominant, while Liquid has had to live his entire life knowing he was the inferior recessive brother clone.
Cool.
So
Why would you volunteer that part of the information?
Yeah,
Well,
you keep that shit
because-
to yourself.
Well, part of his monologue is like, "And I've led you here, and now I will defeat you and surpass my superior clone and even our father himself." That's why.
Yeah. All right.
It's also
Again, it's Thor and Loki.
it's also
I know.
Dr.
It's
Evil
Thor
and
and
Austin
Loki.
Powers.
Yeah. That's what this is.
Holy shit, dude. I forgot that was like the bit of Goldmember.
The reveal of Goldmember. Yeah.
Oh my god. Whoa. Fuck, that's really good. So this is also at the point at which Liquid confirms that all of those stormtroopers that we've been fighting are also versions of them. They are genetic. They are also like, they are not clones, but they're like, they've been injected with Big Boss's DNA. So it is, I guess it's half Stormtrooper, half Super Soldier, but like the worst of both.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, like, it didn't make them better. It just gave them all genetic diseases. So Liquid's like, I want to cure this army of genetic soldiers, and the only way I can do that is with Big Boss's DNA. That is why they needed the remains of Big Boss.
Ah, okay.
Got it.
Okay.
Cool. We all up to speed now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
I'm with
board.
you.
So we get our final boss battle, part 1, where Snake fights Liquid with rocket launchers as Liquid is piloting Metal Gear Rex. As you can imagine, the fight is very one-sided because of the story. That is until Gray Fox appears once more as the cyborg ninja and strikes Rex's flashing weak point, and then is summarily killed for the 3rd time.
He did a Meta Knight.
Yeah, he did a Meta Knight.
There it is.
He's got a Meta Knight, yeah.
Yeah.
Liquid then gestures and reveals Meryl's unconscious but still not dead body on top of the now destroyed Rex. And Snake goes up to get her, but is interrupted by another call from Colonel Campbell. The Pentagon is now aware of everything, and Campbell is telling Snake, bad news, the Pentagon's gonna just nuke this entire facility.
Nuke the whole thing.
Yeah. They're gonna do
this is literally no time to die.
It's also the end of
Christ.
Half-Life.
Yeah. There's only 3 stories.
There's
This
only
world
3
only has 3 stories.
Yeah. He also shares the rest of the information that he wasn't sharing. He airs his dirty laundry by revealing that Colonel Campbell was being blackmailed the whole time by the Secretary of Defense because Meryl isn't actually his niece. Meryl is his illegitimate daughter. So, but now, like, fuck it, Rex is gone and the Pentagon's gonna nuke everything anyway, so whatever.
Who gives a shit, man?
Who gives a shit? Nothing matters. So he's like, I'll buy you time. Get out of there. Oops, it's too late. Campbell's line just got cut, and it's I forget his name. It's like Jim Campbell, Jim Stewart. Jim something, the Secretary of Defense has just cut the line and says, Solid Snake, we're obliterating any traces of Metal Gear Rex and the embarrassment that is the clones of Big Boss. Goodbye forever.
Perfect.
But Liquid is like, not so fast, brother, and rips his shirt off and challenges Snake to a shirtless bare knuckle brawl atop the dead Metal Gear Rex with Meryl's life hanging in the balance. Every one of these fucking games ends with either a fist fight or a sword fight atop a Metal Gear, and it's great.
That kind of rips, dude.
Yeah,
kind of rips.
It really does.
Every
Well,
single
you don't see
fucking
it coming the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Image 19 is the shirtless bare knuckle brawl atop of the now deactivated Metal Gear Rex.
Sick, dude.
Yeah.
With the countdown warning in the corner,
Yep.
too.
Yeah. So Snake uppercuts him, and Liquid slowly falls off the Metal Gear like Scar in Lion King. Snake grabs Meryl, who's now awake, and then together with Otacon, they set to evacuate. Except Otacon's like, no, I'm going to stay here and hack the systems. You two need to live, and I'm the only one that can make that happen. So Snake's like, no, Otacon, Meryl, okay. More or less. And so Meryl and Snake drive a commandeered Jeep through several tunnels and exploding tunnels.
I see what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's just like random genome soldiers chasing them and exploding in tanks and Jeeps in a very Halo 3-esque vehicle sequence.
Mm-hmm.
So you pilot the gunner as like Meryl's driving. Meryl, drive! We get not so fast, brother, and then Liquid shows up, just
Again?
driving. He's still alive, and he's
My
driving his
God.
own Jeep. So you got to fight Liquid. Their Jeep flips. Meryl and Snake are now trapped under the wreckage, and Liquid approaches, and he's like, "That's it, time's up." And as he's about to take the kill shot, Liquid immediately curls up and dies of a heart attack.
Great. Couldn't kill him with rocket launchers. Couldn't kill him in a vehicle. Couldn't uppercut him to death.
Yeah.
Virus.
I do want a mod of just this scene replacing the Jeeps with Nissan Xterras.
Excellent.
Just for us.
That got me.
That's just for us.
Yeah, so Liquid succumbs to the fox dye virus, straight up dies, which solves the immediate problem, but there sets up a longer term problem that Snake's like, oh shit, that means I could die at any point.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Again,
yep.
can't we all?
They look back at the like surprisingly not exploded service tunnel when they get a call from Campbell and says, hey, remember how I told you that the Pentagon was going to bomb everything? Actually, it's cool. It's all chill now. It's fine.
Dope. Love that we smoothed that over.
Yeah, it turns out the Secretary of Defense was acting alone, and he was actually arrested because the U.S. was like, we would never bomb a nuclear facility with more nukes. Like, that's stupid. That's a dumb thing to do. So we're not going to do that. So they did it.
I mean, based,
Fair.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, fair. Also, Campbell's like, hey, according to the records, your Jeep flipped and you guys died at Shadow Moses, and no one knows that you're alive. So go off into the sunset and live your lives.
Clean.
We certainly won't contact you in 4 years to do a sequel.
Snake's like, that's dope. Although we need a rescue for Otacon since like the building isn't going to explode. He's still in there. Can like somebody go grab him? And they're like, yeah, it's chill. Naomi calls him and is like, hey, don't worry about Fox Die. Just live your life.
It'll be fine. Just chill.
Oh.
It'll be totally cool. Just no worries at all.
Just take some ivermectin. It'll be fine.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. So Campbell's like, I got one last gift for you. And then Snake and Meryl head to a strategically placed snowmobile and ride off into the sunset.
Great.
And that's Metal Gear Solid. Post credits.
Wow.
So
I'm so in.
Yeah, dude, same.
So post credits, we hear the voice of Revolver Ocelot, who reveals himself as a get this double agent.
Yo, whoa, what?
He's like, yes, Mr. President. That's right, Mr. President. So he's a double agent who's working directly for the President of the United States the whole time to recover the Metal Gear Rex weapon data from Foxhound. Cool. Also, Ocelot is like, yes, the L'Enfant Terrible project. And he says, it was actually crazy how what did he say? The recessive clone beat the dominant clone. So he basically reveals that like Solid Snake was the recessive clone.
But yeah.
But the inferior one defeated him anyway.
Which, to go back to it, like, and again, I don't know what they say or what they don't say or what Liquid was told, but it's just funny to think that Liquid self-selected that he's the inferior clone at one point.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, man.
See, I figured we'd get a backstory where it's like, they told me I was the inferior one my whole life. So
guys, you have to understand all of this has been retconned.
Of course it has.
Never mind.
because it has to do so. In Metal Gear Solid 5, Ocelot is a main character in Metal Gear Solid 5 and actually like meets Liquid Snake in child form for the first time. But Ocelot does hypnotherapy on himself to make himself forget that he met Ocelot as a kid or met Liquid Snake as a kid. It's a whole thing.
All right.
But we're not going to go there today.
It's just different Kingdom Hearts.
I want to point out that this game came out in 1998.
Yep.
And the three of us who aren't Andrew immediately started like theory crafting the like tease the post credits reveal. Like we got that drop and we all three of us were like, was it this? Like the game's got us, guys.
No, this is a really good exercise. Actually, I'm glad you bring that up because there is one more reveal and I want to see if you guys can guess it. And it has to do with the President of the United States. Just take a wild guess. Well, it'll never be as wild as you think it is.
That it is a third brother gaseous snake.
Holy shit, that's pretty close.
I was gonna say that it's Big Boss.
I was gonna
Big
say
Boss
it was
has
Big
been the
Boss
president
and
the
Big
whole
Boss
time.
still
alive.
Points go to Todd because the
Shit.
big reveal is Revolver Ocelot saying yes, and they realize that only a perfect leader can lead us. Somebody who is a perfect clone. Solidus Snake.
Oh, okay.
Solidist?
Yep.
No. Oh no.
Yep. The president of the United States' name is George Sears, but his real name, his birth name, is Solidus Snake, the third perfect clone of Big Boss.
Okay, I still like Gaseous Snake, which
That
then
was
leads
really
us to,
good.
to
Yeah.
Plasma
Does-
Snake as an option.
Does the president look at all like Snake?
Go ahead and look up image search Solidus Snake, because he's the main antagonist of Metal Gear Solid 2.
Solidus Snake
I guess
is so dumb.
do we get a image of the president in Metal Gear 1 though?
Not in Metal Gear 1. No.
Okay.
So he's a major character in MGS.
I've seen this before. Okay.
Yeah. So we're not going to talk about the other, and I want to just state right here that
This war criming man is the president.
yeah. He also he at the end of the final boss fight is he has a Dr. Octopus suit, and
Sure he does.
You fight him with a cool electric katana.
Yeah, I was gonna
Dope.
say, click through enough photos. He's got a sword.
Yeah. You do a cool sword fight on top of a Metal Gear, and right in front of the Pentagon, or right in front of the one of the buildings in DC.
You know what though? I do think after the last couple elections, the most evil looking man in America could win an election just by wearing a Dr. Octopus suit.
Listen, if Joe Biden, he's the evil man. If Joe Biden wants to have two octopus arms and a katana,
It might improve
man,
his rating, honestly.
I'm already gonna vote for you. But hell yeah, brother.
Okay, so I want a little peek behind the curtain here. I really struggled because I wanted to talk more about the other games, but I felt like I couldn't do this game justice unless I went through the beat by beat. So we're not.
I'm
gonna,
glad you did this.
Yeah,
Me
I
too.
am as well.
I think this was the right call. I do want to just tease a little bit in the later games, and I'll just say I'll put a pitch here. If anybody listening out there wants more Metal Gear, hit me up.
Patreon.com/debatethiscast.
Or that. Either
yeah.
one.
Well, what Andrew's saying is that just schedule a call with them.
Just schedule a call.
Just get on
We'll
with
just,
ya.
talk to you.
Yeah, I charge by the minute. Okay, so as I said, the next floor games get even fuckier than the last. So Metal Gear Solid 2 introduces a surprise protagonist. It does a thing where you think you're playing a Snake, and then after the tutorial, you get a completely new character that you play called Raiden. And Raiden kind of goes through and fights this other terrorist unit in a big tanker, offshore tanking facility called Big Shell. The major thing in MGS2 is we get the Illuminati-esque group called the Patriots, which is this group of people that are pulling all the strings, and the Patriots become the eventual main antagonist of the series. The Patriots are the Illuminati. They're faceless organization. They're the ones pulling all the puppet strings of the U.S. and the world economy, blah, blah, blah.
The deep state, if you will.
If you will. This game came out in 2001, and this game famously, at the end of it, this game predicted memes, meme culture.
Okay.
I can't explain more than that. If you're interested, just go look it up, MGS2 ending, it basically paints a picture for the internet age in 2001, and it is horrifyingly accurate.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, it also does some silly things. So, Matt, you remember correctly, Ocelot at the beginning of MGS2 grafts Liquid Snake's arm onto his right arm, a stump of a right arm, and then
Awesome.
every now and then the ghost of his arm takes over his brain, and he turns into Liquid Snake.
Cool.
Except he isn't actually turning into Liquid Snake. That's more hypnotherapy, but we don't know that yet.
Okay.
Metal Gear Solid 3, which I said is my personal favorite. So that rewinds the clock back to the 1960s to tell Big Boss's origin story as Naked Snake.
Naked Snake.
Naked Snake.
Wow.
And Big Boss
Couldn't have been Primal Snake.
It's
or
Naked
Snake.
Snake. It's It's Naked Snake because he's airlifted into a facility where he has to acquire everything on site, and he's like he all he has is his clothes, so he's Naked Snake.
Fine,
he has nothing.
Andrew,
he has nothing on
fine.
him.
Who cares?
It's good. So that tells the origin story of all of these other characters, like Big Boss. We get the beginnings of Revolver Ocelot, who I mentioned earlier. He meows like a weirdo. Also, like that one has like probably the best theme song. It's got like a James Bond-esque theme song. It's very cool.
Tight.
Metal Gear Solid 4 was the PS3 one. That chronologically is the last entry, and like this was like the end of Solid Snake's story. So the big reveal there is Solid, Liquid, and Solidus are all as part of as part of these genetic clones. They were as like a failsafe. They were like their DNA like makes them age rapidly. They're kind of like a reverse Benjamin Button, and I guess reverse Benjamin Button is just aging normally, but
yeah,
they age rapidly.
They're a fast reversed Benjamin Button.
Yeah.
It's they have the disease that Robin Williams has in the movie Jack.
Yes, good pool. They're jacks. Good fucking pool. So I mentioned earlier, like L'Enfant Terrible happened in the 70s. In 2014, Snake is an old man, and his codename is Old Snake.
Good.
And you play as an old ass man, and it's great. So this is why, but MGS4 is wild. And again, I haven't played that one, but it's like nano machines have taken over, and the world is like a dystopian like mess. The world is also ruled by like private military corporations, and it's just like war has become the economy. It's very fucking like Blade Runner shit.
Yeah.
And then where was it?
What a crazy fictional universe that they have posited.
Yeah, right. Metal Gear Solid 5 takes place in the 1980s and is like right before the Metal Gear games. So MGS5 is again like the best one to play, but like very disjointed as a story. So you play as Big Boss, but you're literally building like the rough draft of his like idealized military nation, this like idea of like military without borders. There are like, and the good thing about those games is it really like paints a good picture of Big Boss. Like he's not a bad guy. He has his own ideals. He's just like, he is flawed like everyone else. Like there's no immediate good. There's no immediate bad.
He's not a monster. Yeah.
He's not a monster.
Yeah.
No. He's not just like, he's not just doing offshore crimes. He is a man who and this is why I say like Lyndon Johnson is the reason for the Metal Gear Solid games, because Snake in Metal Gear Solid 3, spoilers for Metal Gear Solid 3, I guess, he is basically forced to kill his mentor as part, like, by the American government, and basically like becomes absolutely disgusted with the government and like wants nothing to do. And he was like, nothing good can happen in politics. So I'm going to break off my own and do good shit by myself. And that's like his whole kind of arc. But he was manipulated by another man named Zero, who's like kind of the head of the Patriots, whatever. Again, there's a lot of seeds. It's a whole thing. Also, Revolver Ocelot shows up in Metal Gear Solid 5, and like they're best friends. Also, Master Miller is there as Kaz Miller. So you've got like the three amigos, Big Boss, Master Miller, and Kaz Miller and Revolver Ocelot. Except at the end of Metal Gear Solid 5, it's revealed that you were never Big Boss the whole time. Instead, you were a medic who saved Big Boss, and his face was reconfigured, because the whole point of Metal Gear Solid 5
oh no
is to retcon the fact that Big Boss dies in Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2.
Wow.
What a stupid thing.
Yeah.
I'm all the way
great.
in.
It's so stupid. So yeah, so the whole purpose of it is to try to close the thread, to be like, no, actually, the Big Boss that you fight in Metal Gear 1 at Outer Heaven was his backup, was his like his body double.
Yeah.
And this guy called Venom Snake, who you play,
it was his blood boy.
This is Blood Boy. So,
yeah.
But like, so Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, that was the real Big Boss, who did die, but was kept in a comatose state up through Metal Gear Solid 4. Also, Revolver Ocelot knows all of this, but is constantly just erasing his memories through hypnotherapy. Because I don't know, because he's a chaos agent.
The easier way here is just Clone.
Nope.
No,
it's perfect. It's
Todd.
a perfect story. It's a perfect
Todd.
story.
He-
We already
Clone.
did that. What do you want? More clones? This is a
Oh
perfect
yeah, that would
story.
have ruined the story, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Todd, the fidelity.
Todd, I don't think you understand the beauty of like
art.
nearly bankrupting like Konami to
Yeah.
retcon the minorest plot hole
A
from
thing
the
nobody,
first game.
a thing absolutely no one had a problem with.
I'm
Right.
so
That's
mad.
the
This
real
is,
art.
This is just
The
Kingdom
prestige.
Hearts.
Oh man. Even with the false protagonist for MGS2, it's Kingdom
Yeah.
Hearts, because that's the same thing as going from
also-
the one kid to the other kid.
Raiden
Yeah.
from MGS2 turns into the next Cyborg Ninja, and
Sure
he's,
he does.
He's the main.
Sure.
He's the main character of Revengeance.
You know what though? To me, the big difference between this and Kingdom Hearts, this all makes sense. I followed every
yeah,
word
no, I
of
can-
Andrew. I followed
No.
every word that Andrew
No.
said.
No, he's out of line, but he's right.
I agree.
So that's Metal Gear Solid. We finally did it. I'm so happy we did it.
I'm in.
I didn't hate it, and
You're more mad about that.
I'm all the way in.
what I want to watch is so like you gave us some really good like quick hits on everything that came after it.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be like a 5-hour YouTube video.
6.5.
Oh,
It's right in there in that Works Cited page, baby.
This is
the whole ass work day.
this
the
is
whole last
this
workday.
is what Todd's gonna watch instead of cult documentaries for a whole week.
Oh, I am
Yeah,
running
it's-
low on those.
It's that that very first link in here. It's in the show notes. Very first link in here, my guy.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah. I'm gonna do that.
I really liked this.
Good. I'm glad.
I have never played any of the Metal Gear games. I think that I might end up playing like one or
Yeah.
two.
Wait,
or
is Metal
one
Gear
and two.
Solid a Matt game?
It might be, because here's the thing about Metal Gear Solid. It's short, right?
Yeah.
Like Metal Gear Solid. I mean, it's a long movie. Like you can knock that out in about 8 to 10 hours.
Yeah.
I think I'm. I think
MGS2
I'm
What
buying.
the same thing.
kind of movies are you watching, man?
Well, Marvel movies.
I think I'm buying the Master Collection. Like I'm
Yeah, I mean,
in.
I definitely
Yeah.
recommend it. So I'll talk a little bit about the Master Collection because that's probably the easiest way to play these games. So yeah, Master Collection you can get on Switch. It's on Windows. It's on Steam, Windows. I think it just came out for PS5 today or maybe tomorrow as we're recording. So
Wow.
end of January. So pretty available. It's got, like I said, it's got MGS 1, 2, 3. It is the original MGS, not the GameCube version. So it looks like ass, but like it's a PlayStation game. You know, you take it or leave
what
it.
are you gonna do?
It's got the original Metal Gear, Metal Gear 2. I have not played those. I do not know how those games hold up. Again, you got pretty much all you're going to need from those, but if you want to play them, sure. And yeah, and then we've got, and also that collection has the definitive quote unquote editions of 2 and 3. So I think you get the skateboarding game and the Snake versus Monkey and all the other bullshit.
Good.
Say less.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
The only thing that one doesn't